Hi everyone, my name is Shevis Balloon and I'm one of the co-founders of Consol. I'll be making a video tutorial for you guys today. So let's just jump right in. This is the screen you'll see when you first log in with a new account. It'll have all the tutorials that are written, if you prefer, as well as any of the latest updates. Now I'm using a dummy account today, but the first thing I recommend you guys do is to set up your profile. And you can do that by going to the settings page to get to the profile section. You get to settings by clicking on your email at the top right, and then it'll go to settings. We'll cover these other topics later, but for now, just click on profile. And from here, you'll have all your personal information. Now, by default, any public user on Consol will only be able to see your display name, and they'll really only know how to find you if they know your exact email address. Nobody else will see the rest of the data unless you make a connection with them. And if you do make a connection with them, then they will be able to see everything you put in here. Now, I've already pre-populated this fake account with some stuff. And also there's the text message notifications. You can configure that right here. We're not going to do that right now. And again, the display name is the only thing that is public, and you can make it whatever you want. And when you make changes, you click save and you're good to go. So then to get back to the main view, you could just click on the logo. A Consol connection is really similar to a Facebook friend. You have to establish a connection with someone in order to share content with each other or chat with one another. And so let's take a look at connections. Now I'm going to go to the people workspace here, and it's going to be divided into two categories, connections and contacts. Connections are what you have with actual other Consol users. Contacts would be like your Outlook contacts. You can create a contact card for anybody and everybody, and eventually these are going to sync with your phone. But for right now, we're going to look at connections, and we have none. So the first thing I want to do is let's search for somebody on Consol, and I'm just going to get the support account. So I'm up here in the search box, and I'm going to type the support email, and the first thing, the one that pops up is the Consol support account. Now, we're not a connection, so I don't see any of their data, but I can request a connection and they'll receive a notification. Now, let me show you what that looks like on the other end. So let's say somebody were to send us a connection request. So if you just give me 1 minute here. And so I'm going to request a connection from the Consol support account to this fake account of John Klein. So you'll notice that immediately the people workspace has a notification that comes up, and it appears here in my connections list. Now, it doesn't mean we're a connection yet. I have to accept it in order to establish a connection. And once I do, we're now established, and I can see any info they share, which they're not sharing anything, but no big deal. So now I have a connection with the support account. And we'll show a little bit later what that's going to look like, what that means in terms of sharing content. Before we create content in Consol, we need to define our organization. This is done with the workspaces and category panels on the left. Now, we've already looked at the people default workspace, but what we want to do is create our own categorization topics. Now, workspaces is inspired from the book Getting Things Done by David Allen, and he says the best place to start is the place where you get things done. We think that's a pretty good start. And so workspaces would be the places or the most broad kind of category in terms of how you think about everything you need to do. So maybe work, home, or if you're in school. I like to be a little bit more specific. So instead of work, I'm just going to put the company. I'm going to make up a company for this account. It's going to be called KA Design. I'm a designer by trade. And so we're just going to make it a design company. And then we can put in personal. I like to use that instead of home. And then another one I like is technical. This is just my preference. But anything that's technical, like serial numbers or a tutorial, how to set up a printer, all that kind of stuff, I just put under technical. And I like having easy access to that. And then also because I'm a designer, I'm going to just type in design. And that may not be related to my business that I've made up here, but it's just a general bucket for design. So I have my highest level workspace. Now I'm going to create the categories, which are children of the parent workspace. In other words, there's a hierarchy here. I'm going to start with design. I'm going to make some categories, or you can call them subcategories, under design. And you could have the same category in multiple workspaces, and we'll talk about how everything cross-references later. So here I have design. I'm going to add a category called inspiration. So anything that I ever find that is inspiring of good design, I'm going to put here, and then maybe some tutorials I'll put there. And then let's go to my business that I made up. I like to divide this up in client A, client B, client C. Maybe I have finances, and maybe I just have like general business related stuff that isn't related to a client. So I can add that category. Now I can drag these around and order them however I want, or I can click on the workspaces to alphabetize those and click on the categories title to alphabetize those. So I've added categories to both design and my business, KA design. Now maybe if maybe your trade is marketing or sales or whatever it is, and you can make your own workspace based on kind of what you generally do, or you could just do something totally different. It's up to you. So now we have a basic configuration set up, a basic organization of how all of our content is going to be organized. And as you use Consol, this will expand dramatically, but this is enough for now. Now let's make some content. I'm going to start with client A. Now let's imagine client A wants to commission a new project, and I get on a phone call meeting with them. So I'm going to create some content to record some notes for this phone call. Now there's a couple ways I can do that. I can just hit the note button and it will just create a note instantly without a title. Or I can title it here and click create and it'll add it. Now, if I don't specify one, it'll just default to notes. Now, there are other ways to create content. Instead of clicking on the little drop down, I can actually type in an exclamation mark T to switch to tasks, or C for code blocks, or N back to notes, or even B for bookmarks, and so on, or even CON for contacts if I want to create a little contact. Remember when we looked at the people workspace? Any contact that I create will show up also in the contacts list under people. We'll look at that later. Let's make some notes. I'm going to call this meeting notes with the client. And so then it creates my note. Now you'll notice a few things. We have this comments section that's only relevant if this is shared. It's not. So I could add comments to it, but they'll just be for me. That's kind of handy sometimes, even if it's not being shared. But if it's shared, then everybody can see that. And then I have, look at this, these two tags. These actually are representative of the workspaces and categories. You can see them over there. And then I can add other standard tags, like I can call this stuff, or whatever I want to tag it as. And it'll show up as a standard tag here. And so anytime I click on a tag, whether it's a workspace category or a standard tag, I can see every single item in Consol that has that tag, and it'll show up in a list. Right now we only have one item, this meeting notes. And so then I can just start going to town and taking notes and asking questions. And there's some rich text editor tools here that make it handy. So here I have my first set of meeting notes. Now, let's say I'm supposed to, let's say they actually say, hey, oh, by the way, for this design project, we really like these two specific websites. And they give me, they give me a certain link for them. And, they say, just, hey, check these out. We really like these, is where we want you to start. Well, I'm going to take that hyperlink, and if I just paste in a link, it'll automatically switch to bookmarks. I'll go ahead and create it. And it's going to scrape some information from the website itself and put it in the title. Sometimes it doesn't like some of the characters here, so we'll just rename that real quick. And so here I have one of their inspiration websites that they want me to look at that they really like. And they say, here's another one too we want you to look at, and I can do the same thing and add that there. And it'll try to scrape some default information. I don't want any of that. But anyway, so here I have two bookmarks related to this project now. Now, in a note-taking app, I might have 10, 15 notes related to this client. Where did I put those two bookmarks? Not with Consol. They're right here. I can always see them, and that's very helpful. And then you can just drag things around however you want. You can use these sorting tools to sort by chronology, or A to Z, Z to A, or you can group them by content type. And also, if I have a huge list and I only want to look at notes, I can click on the little note icon and it'll only show me notes, and I can click on it again and it'll bring it back. Same thing with any of the content types. And if you forget that you added that filter, if you just refresh the category or whatever, it'll bring the list back. So here I've created 3 pieces of content for this project. Now, I think to myself as they show me these websites, hey, you know what? I really like that Dunlop Dunlop Builders one, I'm going to add this to my own inspiration. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the design tag and I'm going to add the inspiration tag. And now this bookmark is in 2 workspaces in 2 categories. Okay, so if I go to design, you'll see under design and then inspiration, the same item is there. And so that way, whatever my train of thought is for that moment, I can follow it to that item because I've categorized it. It's related to my own personal design inspiration, but it's also related to this business project for client A. And so that's where we start to see some of the cross-referencing work. We call this feature Taggregation, and it will free your mind from having to remember only one train of thought on how to get to a piece of content. It might be related to design or work, but depending on the day, you're going to remember how to get to it differently. Consol gives you the ability to get to it through whichever avenues you create. Now, if you'll notice, there's a new notification next to shared. You'll see the little hibernation rectangle to the right and the number 1 counter next to it. It means there's a new item there that I haven't seen. Let's go ahead and click on it. And it's from the support account, and they've sent me an image, and they've named it Taggregation. And oh, look at that. That's great. Well, let me take this opportunity to show you how we can file this into a new category that doesn't exist. Now, right now, it's only in shared, and it has no tags, so it's going to show up in archive and as well as shared. Let's go ahead and put this in personal, and we can do 2 tags at once, separated by spaces. And let's actually make a new tag called humor. Now, I don't have a category called humor right now under personal or anywhere. And so if I go over to personal, I'll see the item under all, but I actually don't have any categories. Well, I can go ahead and type in humor as a category, and what it will do is it'll elevate that existing standard tag into a category tag. So you can quickly move things around in this manner. And there is a tool that you can actually do this with multiple items at once, which we will show later. And so if I create another category here called finances for personal finances, well, guess what? That image isn't going to be there, but it will show up under humor. And it will always be in shared because the owner of it is the support account. The shared gives me a record of everything that I've shared with somebody else or somebody else has shared with me. Now, if I ever wanted to remove myself from any share, I would just click the X next to my name under Share This. And no need to do that right now. Let's get back to the project. So I'm going to click on KA Design, and you'll notice that it already has Client A selected. So it remembers whatever the last thing you clicked on, whatever the last view you had, it'll remember that, whether it's a category or workspace, even if you log out and log back in. So you can just pick up where you left off. All right, let's create some tasks. So I'm going to use the hotkey to change the content selector, and let's say set up CMS for website. Let's say put together design prototype and meet with Barry Allen. Great. Now the meeting is probably the most important, and the design prototype is next, and I don't need the CMS yet, so I'll leave that at green. And you'll notice the priorities are here on the left. And then as I'm creating the task, I'm remembering, oh yeah, I had another prospect for another gig. Let me actually put a new category together called prospects, and let's say reach out to my contact at Aperture Science. Okay. I don't know what design they needed done, but we're going to find out. Now, I've created 4 tasks. Let me go back to Client A, and now we have something unique with tasks, and this is the tasks workspace. And the reason for the tasks workspace is this. Sometimes, no matter which project a task belongs to, you just want to see everything that you've put on your plate, and that's what the tasks workspace is for. So you can go here, and it'll list all 4, no matter which workspace or category they belong to. It'll list them all. And you can drag them around and reorder them here, and any new tasks will appear at the top. So if you want to order them by priority, you just hit the purple group button at the top, and it will order them by priority. If I go to active, it'll just show active, and if I go to completed, it'll show everything that I completed. So if you like to keep a record of everything you've done, the complete category can be handy under tasks. And now they also mentioned, hey, we have a logo we want you to use on the website. And so I can go ahead and upload that image. I can put that image right next to all of my content here as well. Now, I can take an image off the internet, a link to an image, a URL, and it will automatically create an image, download that image from the server where the image exists and put it in Consol. So even if that link were to die in the future, the image would still be in Consol. I can also just upload it from my hard drive. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to upload an image, and here it's the client A logo, and now we have it with the rest of our project content. I'm going to move it down here. And one thing too is sometimes, the image is much larger than what the space is here, obviously. And so it's just scaling down so you can see it. You'll have some metadata up here about the image. And one thing you can do to view the image in full size is to do pop out. And you can pop out any item. I like to pop out my notes and take notes while I'm doing other stuff in Consol and have two windows open. But I'm going to go ahead and pop this image out. And what you'll see is that it's in its own window, and if I maximize it, it's a little bit bigger than it was before. So it's stretching horizontally to its full size, and then it stops. So that can be handy if you want to examine larger images. Now's a good time to show a few other helpful tools within Consol. Eventually, some of your categories will get really long, 50, 100 items, and it'll just become really jumbled. You have some sorting tools up here that'll allow you to reorder them automatically. If I were to just move things around here briefly, real quick, and jumble them up, if I click the group button, it'll group them based on their content type. If I'm in tasks, as shown before, it'll do it by priority, but here it'll do it by content type. So I'll just click group, and it puts all the content types together. And if I click it again, it will do it the opposite order, but still together in content types. I can also do chronological, newest, oldest, oldest, newest, and A to Z, Z to A. And it'll just short your list and auto-save that list. Everything auto-saves, by the way, so there's no need to ever worry about saving. Okay, so let's say I'm working with a colleague, and they need to use this logo for a marketing video. So I have a couple of tools here. I can send them a copy of it, and that's fine. And that's like an email essentially. Once they have it, that's it. I have no control over it. They have their own copy. Or I can share it, and sharing will allow me to use the comment section back and forth, and I can add and revoke access anytime I want. So I'm going to go ahead and share it with them. And if I just search Consol, it'll show up because they're a connection. Confirm that share, and now they're going to have it in their own shared workspace. And so let me say, hey, go ahead and use this for the marketing video. And then they'll get that message, and then they might write something back, and there it is. Boom, it all happens in real time. It said, cool. Okay, I gave myself a task to meet with Barry Allen. Let me go ahead and schedule that and get that on my calendar. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule it for right now so that we can see a reminder notification. So if I open the item and then go to the schedule this, it'll expand an area, and I can just use the date picker here. I'm going to do this for right now today, and it's 6:06 right now. So this has already passed. So if I set a reminder, it should show up as soon as the server has a chance to cycle it. I'll get that pop up. Sometimes it's a couple of seconds. Sometimes it's like 30 seconds. I can also set an inbox reminder, and I can do more than one at a time. And that will show up in my Consol inbox. I can do email, obviously go to my email account, and then I can do text message if I've set that up. And there's my reminder. Now, when it comes in, it tells me with the icon that it's a task, the start and stop time, and the title of the item, Meet with Barry Allen. If I want to snooze this, I have a couple of options. I can snooze based on its scheduled start, but because this scheduled start is already passed, these will just make the notification come right up again. So these are irrelevant for this particular start time. But I do have these if I wanted, where if I chose an hour after snooze, so I choose an hour and click snooze, it will come back to me an hour after I click the snooze button. So it's a very handy alternative snooze. I'm just going to dismiss this, and let me actually schedule it for a more reasonable time next week. And I'm going to schedule everything. So I'm going to clear that out. And if I were to just reschedule it without clearing it out, the reminder is smart enough to know, oh, they rescheduled it. We're going to kick off the reminder again when it comes. So I'm going to schedule this for Tuesday, and we'll do 10 in the morning, and we'll go till 11 in the morning. We'll leave the pop-up reminder there. And let's go ahead and schedule this from on the 5th, and we'll go from 11 when the other one ends. And let's go to 2 p.m., 3 hours to put together a quick design prototype give myself a pop-up reminder. And then for this, this I only need an hour for maybe, so we'll go from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Okay, and then we have scheduled 3 things. You'll notice that the start and stop time are now dates because it's no longer today. If I go back to this meeting with Barry Allen and I clear that out and I set it to today again, you'll notice that the times are, or the start and stop are times. So if it's today, it'll show you the time. If it's not today, it'll show you the date. If one of them is today and one of them is not today, the one that is today will show the time, and the one that's not will show the date. So it's a handy, you can trust that if it shows a time, that means today. Let's actually change that. Let's put it back to the 5th, and that was at 10 a.m. to 11. There we go with the reminder. Okay, and it's back to the dates here. So let's look at this on the calendar. I can go down here to the calendar view, and right now I'm on lists view. That's what's highlighted. I can go to calendar, and then chat just hides my chat list. And right now I only have one Consol connection, so it only has one person in there. So that's how you can just remove that out of the way if you don't want it. We can look at that later. I'm going to switch to calendar view, and you'll notice that these all change to year, month, and day. And it will default to today. Every time you switch to the calendar, it just defaults back to today. If I were to schedule something for 2017, that 2017 option would appear. Now, I scheduled those things for the 5th, so let's take a look. And one thing you'll notice is that there are these colors in the list view, and each tick represents a block of time, 1 hour. And so I can tell visually from the list view that I filled up from 10 to 11, 11 to 2, and 2 to 3. I can get a feel for how full my day is in the list view with this visual representation. Now, if I wanted to schedule something, I can actually schedule it right here without actually being in a workspace or category. Let's say I want to follow up with Barry via email, and it'll put it right on today and it'll auto schedule it to the 5th. And so it'll default to time to whatever time it is right now. So let me just change that. We'll do that at 3 o'clock on Tuesday, and I only need 15 minutes to handle that. And you'll see, we'll give myself a reminder too, you'll see now I have this new item there. And then maybe I think, maybe I should let me follow up the next day here. So we'll do the 6th, and I'll follow up in the afternoon. And notice that it's now gone. If I view the 6th, I'll see that there's the item right there. And even though it doesn't have any tags, it can still exist on the calendar. And so I may not, if I'm just in calendar mode and that's the way I'm thinking, I'm not limited by having to tag it. And I can go ahead and tag it later. I can also view the week, and you'll see that I have these 3 items on Tuesday, and then I have this 1 item on Wednesday, and I can also view the whole month if I want. Obviously don't have anything else scheduled on this account, but that's how the calendar view works. And one of the great things about Consol is that these are not copies of the item. It's the same item being presented to you differently based on how you interact with it. And sometimes it's about the topic or the content type, or sometimes it's about the schedule and time. And with Consol, it all works together. All right, let me switch back to the list view, and I'm going to have one more feature I want to show you for this first tutorial video. Oh, 2 things I forgot to mention real quick about scheduling. I didn't actually show, I can set the reminder to be any number of these options. So there's a whole bunch of reminder options. It just will default to 0 minutes. That's just the one that I use the most frequently. And also, if I choose pop-up and this window is not the active window, it will play a pleasant kind of dinging sound just to let you know, hey, a pop-up is on your Consol window. Even that'll only beep, you only get that ding if it's not the active window. Now, when you're done with the project, you have a couple of options. You can just leave it there and continue to fill up a category of a whole bunch of items. Or you can archive things. You can just select everything and use the global archive here to archive it. And then I know some people, they like to actually make a new category where they specify completed stuff. Well, let me just show you that real quick. So I'm going to call this client A completed. And I've made this new category. And let's put that right under client A. And what I can do is, what I want to show you right now is the multi-tagger. In other words, how do I tag a whole bunch of stuff all at once? So I can select them all right here. And this is your button right here. It's the tag button, it's the screen button. And I'll get this, this window that comes up. And what it does is it gives me a rundown of the current tags that are on all the items. So out of all 7 that I have selected, which is indicated up here, one of them is tagged design, all of them are tagged KA design, all of them are tagged client A, and one of them is tagged inspiration, and one of them tags stuff. If I were to X out from here, it would remove this tag from all 7 in the parentheses. So it's a quick way to not only add tags, but to quickly remove tags from everything. And that's actually what we're going to do. I'm actually going to type in client A, and then we're going to choose completed. And you'll see the system did a little bit of work, and it just added that tag to all 7 items. And then let's just remove it from client A. And so if I refresh client A, it's now empty, and now I have client A completed, and it's all right there. And this reminds me, I said one last feature, but I'm going to show one more. So that is one method to quote unquote change the name of a category or even a workspace, is just to tag everything with the new name and then remove it from the old. But there's actually an easier way to rename a tag. Let's say KA Design. Let's say I change the name of KA Design. If I click on the tag itself, what it'll do is it'll bring up a new list view, and so right now I have this easy access because I have this item open that this is tagged with, and so it'll bring up the KA Design tag view, and that's where I can actually change the name of it right here. Let's actually do that. I'm going to call this BA Design, and then just hit done. I was doing some work before, and that tag actually exists in the system even though I'm not using it. So I actually need to name it to something else. Let's name it to AAA Design. There we go. Okay, I know I haven't used that tag. You'll notice that AAA, it renames right here. It renames right there. It renames over here. And if I activate it, and there, all my stuff is still there, and all the other things have the new tag name. Now, sometimes it's not as easy to find an existing tag. You know, well, what if you don't want to open an item just to click on a tag name so that you can rename it? Well, we have a tag list for that. If we go into settings, and over here on the right we have tag list, this will show every tag that's in the system. And you'll notice that, you know, BA Design actually exists because I was using it before. That's why it didn't let me rename it to that. It has AAA Design. It has every tag that I've ever used. And sometimes you may decide, I just want to completely nuke a tag and get rid of it. And that's what you can do right here. Now, if it's a workspace tag or a category tag, it'll ask you, whoa, this is what's going to happen if you do that. So you need to be really careful if you just want to totally wipe out a tag. But it's possible. If you do a gray one, then it'll just go away. And so there's, you know, because usually the gray ones are not as substantial as these other ones. And then again, to get back to the main interface, I can come back here. All right, so that's going to be the end of this tutorial, and this covers most of the basics, and I appreciate you guys watching.